Okay, so what we're gonna do here is rewatch the run that I'm gonna submit for pace, but I need to add commentary because my run does not have commentary. So I'm just gonna watch from the beginning, and we're just gonna talk through it. So this is Blues Brothers 2000 for the N64. This is a game that not many people know even exists or have played. I did read that it was Blockbuster only for a while before it was fully released. So this game is a collectathon like Banjo-Kazooie. You have to just collect all the items from each world to progress to the next one. There's only 4 worlds, so it's not a very long game. But you have to collect all the music notes and then 1 instrument from each world. There are a bunch of keys. Most of them are required to progress. I haven't discovered any skips, any major skips that can skip some keys. I've gotten a couple. So for this first world, there is just you're escaping jail. There is some different rooms. So the first room, you have to punch open these air vents, and when you crawl inside, you'll get shot up to a window, and you have to hit these buttons in order. So we hit the first button, and we should jump back down and do it again for the second button. So we're actually going to be able to skip the third button by doing a very precise jump. And this is the first instance you'll see of the ground pound. So that ground pound there, it extends your fall. And then so we have to hit this button, and then once you clear the security guard, then you'll be able to open the door and leave the room and go to the next one. I'll explain the ground pound once there's a little bit more downtime. So in this room, you just have to climb to the top. So we're actually gonna what you're supposed to do is open these switches that make the platform in the middle rise up, and we will do that. But first we skipped it by jumping on top of that roof with a precise jump, and now we'll open the switches so that we can rise all the way to the top and collect the notes from way up top and the key that we need to escape. So we get the key, then we have to go all the way back up and exit this room. So this is the first dance scene. So it's like, you know, like Parappa the Rappa or any of those old school games where it's like a rhythm. So you just tap the button when the thing turns blue, and then if there are any other keys there, then you like hit the button or the arrow, and then you hit the A for the rhythm. So it's just a really short rhythm game. It just kind of teaches you what to do. I skip a couple of them throughout the run, but some I haven't found a way to skip yet. So in this room, to collect the note, you have to hit the arrow, which directs this inmate to go get his medicine, to get his shot. But it's weird. You have to hit the opposite. So when you hit the forward arrow, he goes back. If you hit the right arrow, he goes left. So we just have to steer him. So it is RNG where the inmate starts. We do want him to always start on the very top left, because then you can hit the up left arrow and he will just walk a direct diagonal path right to the nurse. Otherwise, if he's like in the middle or the right, we have to hit a couple different buttons to steer him, so it's just not quite as fast. The ground pound's also the strongest attack, so we take her out, get the note, then we gotta jump on top of here, do the same thing where you hit the little switch to get the guard out so that we can exit the room. So I'll explain the ground pound once we get to the long section. So this one is just a matching game. You have to ground pound 2 of the little plates in order, and when they match, then one of the pans behind the kitchen fall and hit the little chef there. And once you hit all 4 of them, then this mini game is over. There are extra ones like 1-ups and things, but those aren't required. So here is just some precise routing where I know exactly what order to hit them as the shortest path and to match them all. So the next minigame, it's not really a minigame, it's just some platforming where you have to just bop on the guards to open a gate and then progress through. So while this is going on, I can explain the ground pound mechanic. So in this game, when you jump from a very high height, you don't take damage when you fall. Either you land on your feet just fine, or if it's high enough past a certain threshold, he'll do this falling animation where he's like swimming in the air and then he collapses, and you have to jump up to get back to your feet. So there are a bunch of places where I'm trying to jump from a high height to skip something, and if you do a ground pound, what happens is, so your trajectory on a normal jump, I'll put it on my screen, it's, you know, like that. But once you start falling, your trajectory goes more vertical, and you have less horizontal distance you can cover when you get that falling animation. So if you're jumping a far or a high distance, you'll be able to do like a regular trajectory jump, and then once you start with the falling animation, then your horizontal speed will almost cut off and you'll just fall kind of straight down a little bit forward. But once you ground pound, what it does is it lets you keep that regular jump trajectory a lot further. So you pause in the air and then you ground pound, and you can keep moving forward, so it extends your jump. So that's why we use it at the very beginning, because it lets you skip from that second window to the third window in that first wall. Otherwise, it's really hard to make it. So here, this is just a mini boss where you have to run away. If he gets to you, he'll grab you. I'm actually baiting him to grab me, so I can get him all the way in this corner. So I can get him near that music note, so I don't have to run back and get the note later. And then what I'm going to do is just bait him to come all the way across and time it so that when he gets tired, I can bop on him. So he just chases you, and once he gets tired, then he'll stop. And then you just have to slide into him and knock him over and ground pound on him to do damage. Or if he grabs you, then you can knock him over while he's laughing. So I do abuse that by baiting him all the way to the door and just letting him grab me so I can get him right next to the doors to exit. So here is just some platforming. I had to jump up on some barrels and across some little cells to get a key to open a gate, and then go get a note and the music instrument from the other side. So there is a little glitch that I haven't quite figured out how to do it, but this button I just hit, if you ground pound it in a certain way, then you skip that cutscene of watching the gate open, but the gate's still open, so it saves just, you know, like a second or something from watching that little cutscene. So there's a music note, and what I tried to do there, and you'll see me do it a lot, is either jump into an item and then do a little like head spin jump out of collecting the item. So a key doesn't matter because there's no animation, but it's like in Banjo-Kazooie when you get like a puzzle piece, or like a star in Mario where you have a little dance animation after you collect it. If you jump into an item, you can carry your momentum a little bit forward past it, and then if you do a head spin while he's doing his little collection, you see that, or the head spin right there. If you do that while he's doing his little celebration, it actually lets you cancel out of it. So that's the head spin is the only tech that'll let you exit that animation. So here you have to avoid the spotlights, otherwise it sets you back to the corner of the room. Unfortunately, I got hit there. It's not RNG. It's just really tight to get from the first note to the second note. So here is supposed to be another dancing game. I skipped this one by jumping over, I believe, and just going straight into the door, or the loading zone to the truck. So that's World 1. It's pretty short. Now World 2 is where it gets interesting. We're in the city. There's lots of skips and things going on. So there's a whole sewer section which we skip entirely because of the ground pound and some precise jumps. So trash can is like a big trampoline. So here is just some precise platforming. We're going to go all the way up to the top to collect some more items that are required. The rollout, it clips you onto that ledge a little bit. It's kind of precise when you do it. Otherwise, the rollout doesn't really do a whole lot. If you do a jump into a 1-up, then you cancel that little dance animation immediately. So that's why I jump into almost all items that I try to get. So here is the first one. You see that ground pound extends my horizontal jump so I can reach the other side of the street. Without that, the only way to reach the other side of the street is this really precise car jump trick that I came up with before, which is a lot harder. Or you can, you have to get a key, and then you have to go in here, get a wrench to unlock the sewer, go back under the sewer, and then pop open the fire hydrant, like the water pressure from the fire hydrant. That'll launch you up. That's all. You're supposed to have to do that whole section to get to the other side of the street. So we skipped that entire sewer section by doing that jump. So this is not the sewer. This is just like an underground. The sewer is like an actual sewer where there's like a chase scene and there's with a big alligator. We skipped that entire thing. It's really long and there's no notes in there to collect, which is nice. But we do need the keys to open that door to get out of the sewer or this underground section. So here's a little bit of waiting. You hit this stoplight. This is something I've been trying to figure out for a long, long time, and I could not figure out a way to skip having to punch that light and wait through the animation. And then also wait for this truck. So when you hit that stoplight, it spawns this green truck, which will let you jump up on this tree. I've been trying to find a way up there, and I haven't yet, without having to do that. So then we gotta backtrack into the upper portion of this underground section, because there's another note in here. I think this is the first time where you will see me take an automatic death. So if you die, it spawns you at the beginning of whatever room you're in, wherever you entered that room from. So when I collect this note, I'm going to immediately fall down the hole as fast as I can, and then it'll spawn me right at the door that I entered that section from, and I can just turn around and go back out. So I do that a lot. And if you see me collecting 1-ups, that's because I want to have enough 1-ups to live and still use those death warps. So we call them. So now we're going to exit to the next underground portion. It's pretty straightforward. Jump and collect this 1-up, so there's no dance animation for it.
How's it going?
Sorry if you hear my other voice talking from the run. Just talking over myself. So here is where you're going to see another tricky skip. So this is the same thing where you're supposed to have a sewer section that we skip entirely to open a fire hydrant to get to the other side of the street. First we're going to do the backtracking just to collect the item and do the death warp like we did the first city section. And then I'm gonna go up to the top of the awning, and this section lags a lot when you see this skip. I'm not quite sure why the awnings start to lag in this third city section. So there's a death warp. I'm gonna go collect the last items that I need from way up over here on the right side. So there's that frying pan lady out the window is a pain in the butt. So there you see the fall animation. So we're gonna climb up. There's a keyboard that we need, so the instrument from this world. Get an extra 1-up just in case. I'm gonna do a whole lot of death warp. So this is a really tricky jump. So I need to get max height and then get a ground pound to skip all the way to the other side. Now this is where it lags a lot for some reason. It just like freezes you on there. But that one worked out really nice. It was a first try. I didn't even take any time to set it up. I just immediately went for it. Now another ground pound here to be able to jump all the way across to this platform, which skips just a couple other jumps that we don't have to do. Now we're gonna jump straight into the door.
I'm doing pretty good.
And we're into the next section of the city. Where we just gotta climb up on some little hay barrels and just ride some platforms. A little bit auto scroller of a section once you wait for the platform to come get you. So we climb to the top, get the music note, and then we're gonna wait on these little blue cloud platforms for this little cloud thing to scroll over and come to us. These jumps onto the cloud the first time you play those games are really nerve-wracking because you can't, because the cloud's just a translucent texture, you can't tell at all where you're supposed to land on it or where you can stand. It's really weird. There's no clear, like, ground. The texture, like, they didn't even finish rendering that texture, it looks like. So now we're on top of the buildings. And this is a really weird section, too. You go in these, like, air vents, and they shoot you out the other side. I don't really understand it. I skipped some of them, but you kind of have to use it. And sometimes they suck you in. When you go through the air vent, sometimes the one that you're going into, like the second one, will suck you in again. And sometimes, like here, I'll be able to not get sucked in and just bail out to the side. It's really interesting. I don't really know what's going on with that. So this karaoke machine is just a checkpoint. I'm just getting it for safety because this section coming up here and the section before are kind of stressful, so I just want to make sure in case I die, I have a checkpoint. So this checkpoint we skip. So something here, when you're running down a slope, it like eats your jump, so that's why I have to stop there to jump. Otherwise, I guess running down the slope, the game thinks you're still in the air, so it doesn't let you jump. So here's the next rhythm section. Where you see, you know, you have to tap up, up, and then when this thing lights up blue, you mash the blue. Super easy. But actually what you can do is all you have to do is, like, you can lose, it doesn't really matter, and then you can skip through it. There's certain ones you have to win, but we'll see those later. So here's another one where I stop on the slope to be careful. So, yeah, see that one? I was on top of it, and then it sucked me in again. I think that's just this game being janky. This game is very poorly made. It's definitely a ripoff of, like, parts of Banjo-Kazooie with the notes, parts of Mario 64 with the ground pound. They tried to add some other, like, new thing for them with the head spin. It's not clear at all how much damage enemies take. Sometimes an enemy will take one hit, sometimes they'll take more. The ground pound seems to do the most damage, but it's really weird. Some enemies, you'll slide into them 4 times and they die. Sometimes it'll be like 8 times. We'll see it in the next world. So this is the boss of the second world. You have to collect all these bottles, which he immediately hits you, so there's no way to avoid taking damage when you collect those bottles. But then you just climb up on the side. There's some safe spaces, which is way here in the back of the section where he can't hit you. And then you throw bottles at the spotlights and they fall on him. You have to hit, like, all the spotlights off. You can only hold 5 bottles at a time, so you have to, like, reload the bottles, like your ammunition a couple times. This entire boss fight, the guy in the middle, he's throwing bottles at you too, and he's really accurate. He hits you immediately. So that's why I have to find these safe spots at the top. You see, he keeps hitting me. I only have 1 heart left. I'm about to die. If you keep moving, usually you're safe. But if you stay on the back of these ledges, the front of the ledge kind of protects you a little bit from him hitting you. So, I think this should be it, right? And these shots are kind of hard to get. They're kind of specific where you have to throw the bottle. And then once they're all gone, then the last one, you can knock your friend off. And that's World 2.
Good enough.
So World 3 is where the biggest time save that I found. Well, I guess World 2 was bigger with skipping the sewer sections, but here is where I can really abuse the ground pound tech. And this jump is really precise. So first I have to hit this gravestone to open up this moving platform to get up there. And then on the way there, I'll open up the stairs on the ledge. So after this platform, or after that cave we go in, we can get to the next one. So immediately when I enter this cave, I'm gonna turn to the side and do a immediate big jump with a ground pound. So, and I'll collect a music note that's just hovering there way up in the air. So the intended way to get this note, watch, and ground pound right at the right time, right before the fall animation starts. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kill myself to respawn at the top, because otherwise you have to climb back up and then go into these rooms to open. You have to hit these switches in order, so it's like green and then blue one and then the red one. So the intended way for this entire cave section is to just fall down. You go to the gray note, or the gray switch. You talk to the house, lets you know what you're supposed to do, and then you have to collect the green switch, then the blue switch, then the red switch, and then you hit the gray switch after you've hit the other ones in order, and then a little boss will come out. After you defeat that boss, oh, there's an automatic death I just took there to reset again, save some time. Once you kill the boss, then he gives you a key to go into the following area, the haunted house. But that music note that's floating way up there at the top, you're supposed to get after you beat this boss. So you're supposed to kill this boss to get the key, and then climb back up. And there's some really tight platforming with some moving platform sections. It takes a long time, and those platforms aren't available until you defeat this boss. But with that precise long jump, or the long jump with the ground pound, I can collect that note and skip that entire thing. So after I defeat this boss and get the key, I'm going to kill myself on the flame again, right there, and then just reset to the top of the cave and we're out. So we get the key, and then we're going to try to get out on top of these flames, and we're good. So there's one other, before we go into the haunted house,
Alright, plan.
we have to go into this next little cave. This is where I'm talking about with the enemies. So sometimes this plant will take like 8 hits to die. Sometimes it's like 2. Otherwise the plant will grab you and spit you out. It's really tough. This plant is a huge barrier for this section. It grabs you. It can spit you in the water. If you go in the water, it's an automatic death. It wastes a ton of time. The only way to kill it is to slide into it, and it's kind of random which how many hits it takes. I don't understand why it's random. So that thing I hit right there, that music box, it just turns on a couple of platforms, like in Mario 64 when you jump on a purple switch and it opens up the wooden platform. So it turns on these platforms here, so that I can get that note and then get the drum set. That item just gives you a higher jump, so that we can make it from this platform to the second one where the note is, this last note. Then we're going to exit. And then we're going to go onto a trampoline and do a really precise jump roll out to get on top of the tree. The tree, it can block you and just send you down and waste a ton of time. It is pretty tough to get up there. And luckily it got on the first try, which is very nice. Then we're going to get music note. This blue heart just gives you an extra health on your meter. Now the haunted house. This is probably the hardest section in the game. These platforms at the beginning are random. Sometimes they're synced, sometimes they're not. Luckily, right there, they were synced perfectly, and it was really nice. But sometimes they're just like impossible. They don't sync up at all, and I don't understand it. These little ghosts will knock you off these ledges and send you down. It's a real pain. So this one went really well. I made all these cycles. I didn't make that one, but that one is... I've never made that one before. It's usually not even there for the taking. And I went risky here. I didn't get... There's a karaoke machine checkpoint. Sometimes I get it. I didn't get it here. And now we're just damage boosting. We're just running, taking all the hits from these hands, going as fast as we can to jump over, and now we're out. So once you cross that big jump, then we're safe. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. We have to collect the key, and here I'm actually going to do a save and quit. So I could either waste the time dying, and see, I have a lot of hearts here. What I'm actually going to do is save, exit the level, and reload the game. And it's going to start me at the beginning of the world. This is the only time in the game, in this whole run where I do this, but when I reload it, it'll start me from the middle of this world, where it's like a hub, and then I can just go straight into this next gate. There's no other place in the run where it's applicable. This is the only worlds where it's like a main hub where I have different rooms off of it. All the other rooms are pretty linear, the other worlds. So this is just a ridiculously long path full of crap. I try to slide through every plant. This one grabbed me, and I think I got lucky. He didn't spit me in the water, but your slide attack kind of stuns the piranha plants. So you'll see me do that all the time, and I get a ton of these karaoke machines because I want to be safe. Those swinging axes, they are immediate one-hit deaths. Falling in the water is a one-hit kill. I probably get half of the karaokes here. These boulders are one hit if you get touched by them. You have to really time your cycle there. And here's just, again, with the slope issue, so I gotta stop at the slope and then make this jump. This is unnecessarily long on this path, and everything is like a one-hit death. And there's a music note way up there, and you wouldn't even know it if the trampoline wasn't there to kind of signify that it's up there. And these boulders kind of follow you. It's really strange. Usually I just bait it to the left, but they can be tricky. All these piranha plants, they just suck you in, and they make you waste so much time if they get you. So these jumps are really tricky because there's a ceiling above you. It's hard to see where you are, and like it's hard to find your depth perception. So I just had to memorize kind of how far to jump and on the stick, because it's really hard to see where you are and gauge your distance in there. So you see I got that karaoke because there's a whole bunch of hard jumps I did before. There's supposed to be there's a checkpoint right at the end of this section before the boss where there's a skeleton who wants you to either like do a dancing minigame, I can't exactly remember, and he wants to check to make sure you have all the items, but I put a specific jump to get over him so I don't have to even bother talking to him to go straight into the boss. So this boss, you have to just throw apples at this tree, and he only drops like one apple per cycle. I did find out how to skip like a half cycle at the beginning by going a certain direction. But yeah, he'll chase you, drop an apple, and then you have to jump on a platform and throw an apple into his mouth when he lights up. It's pretty easy and straightforward. So when he stops, he'll like scream, and then he knocks an apple down. And just throw it into his mouth and just rinse and repeat. After this boss, there's another rhythm section. I wish I was able to skip that one, but it seems like you may have to do it to exit World 3. So normally you're supposed to collect this, and then the apple, and then kind of wait to the next cycle. But I started a half cycle early by collecting the apple the first time and shooting it during his attack while the apple's falling. So we save, one half cycle throughout the whole fight, or I guess a full cycle maybe, because we skipped having to do a fourth one or fifth one. It is. Every time you hit him with an apple, another platform rises on the side of the wall. So you see I threw in there, another platform comes out. If there is a way to skip up there, I may be able to skip finishing the fight. I'm not quite sure. I haven't been able to do that yet. That's something I may need to test out. So that should be the last one, right? Oh, no, there's one more. Yeah, because I can't quite reach that fourth platform just yet. So here's the last cycle. I try to end as close as I can to the platforms that I have to exit from. And there's a fifth one, and then we just climb up. We do a little dancing mini game, and then we save our buddy who's in a cage. Okay. So all you have to do is really, in these dancing mini games, is beat the first, what do you call it? Stanza, I guess. And at least for these ones, and when he says round one, he's just kind of practicing with you. Then you can just lose after that, and it doesn't matter. It's just the first part that you actually have to do. So now we're into the final world, which is World 4. It's pretty linear. It's a little long, but it's linear. So this is the first time you'll see me get the speed boost item. It's not in any of the other worlds, but it's yeah, you go pretty fast. It's useful. So what? And then ground pound on this little dynamite to blow up these rocks to let you through. But what this music note, or that the speed lets you do in the water section, which later on in this world you'll see is really interesting. So this is another mini game I wish I was able to skip, but it seems to open a door. I don't really see any other way around it. I haven't been able to figure out how to clip through that door. But again, we just do the one stanza, and then once he says round one, just start like the actual practice game or something. We just lose. Saves time, because if you win, then you have to do, it goes like round 1, 2, 3, and we don't need any of those. So doing that opens up this door. So this is the most nerve-wracking part of the game, or just one of the most nerve-wracking parts. The next one is at the very end with the waterfall. So I haven't found a way to skip these barrels yet. I would love it. I'm still working on it, but you just have to wait, and it's not RNG or anything. There's this very specific cycle all the barrels are on, so you have to wait. And that, all you're trying to do is get to the other side into the middle of the river. But if you fall into the water here, it's a one-hit death. You just immediately drowned. So you have to wait to cycle all the way around. Also because there's a music note on one of these little ledges here. But then you have to jump from there to a ledge to another barrel. And the last jump from barrel to one of these ledges to another barrel is ridiculous. So the last barrel that you jump onto, you think it's going at a certain speed, and then right before you land on it, the barrel just takes off and accelerates out of nowhere like it's a car or something. So, and you'll see, after I get this music note, you'll see it. I predict when it's going to come. You see it there. You see the barrel just kind of like took off where the last one didn't. I may be able to make this jump from there immediately. I don't think you can. Let's just skip another cycle, but once this comes, you'll see I jump, and then I have to veer to the left after I jump to catch up with the accelerating barrel. It's kind of weird. That jump right there is really scary. It's really tough. Alright, now we have to just go into these houses, collect some notes, and do some things, and then move on to the next section. So we have to get this cape, and then we go to the tree, and then it knocks this beehive down that scares this bear away, I think.
In the beginning.
Or he gets to eat it. I don't really understand why you have to get the cape to do it. That's all it is. And then he once you hit the beehive down, then this platform is available for you to ride across to the other side of the river. And the river later in this world is not a one-hit death, and you can just jump in it. It's ridiculous. No consistency there. This game is kind of broken. You'll see it a little bit later too. So here, this is a fun little game, I guess, where you have to just throw flies at these frogs. Every single frog has to eat a fly before the clock, or before the timer runs out. And then if every frog is eaten, then the log that you're standing on will rise up to the top, and you can exit to the next part of the level. Feed those frogs, yay! And they're all fed. Now it's got to wait for the timer to run out, and then the platform will rise up to the top. And if you don't jump off the platform the right way, then you have to do this whole mini game again. So it's really stupid how you have to like make sure you don't miss this jump. It's kind of long, so that's why I get this karaoke checkpoint, just to make sure. And going into this loading zone, I have had the game crash several times. Just right there. Luckily we're good, did not crash. So there's another dancing mini game in this big tree house. We skip it because we just don't have to talk to this old lady. We can just kind of run around her. And then they'll take us into the spider den, which is a long section of just running for not a whole lot. So here's that old lady. If you go near her, it'll spark the mini game but we just don't go near her. And the camera here is really weird. You have to like manually rotate it, otherwise you kind of get stuck on the edge by the tree. That question mark, if you hit the record player, it turns that into like a coin or something, but you don't need that. So here's a spider den. It gives you this music like you're in a boss fight, but you don't really have to deal with any of the spiders. There's one spider you have to deal with later who opens up a platform, but it's pretty simple. So this is just precise running, making sure the angle is straight line. We do skip a small part of this, so you're supposed to run to the end. You have to collect an instrument who's behind one of the spiders, and then you're supposed to collect a key to open a door. For some reason, the developers didn't finish building this door, and you can just kind of squeeze in behind you can just clip through the door just by like jumping into the side of it. So you'll see, I skipped that key. So here's the music, or the instrument. It's like the microphone. And then we backtrack. So there's a key further on in the room. We skipped that key because we don't need it to open this door. So this jump to clip through the door is a little precise. You just have to line it up with the edge of the door and the door frame. Other than that, it's pretty. That's all you have to do. I've missed it several times, but here we did pretty well to nail it first try. Now this spider you have to kill. Again, it feels like RNG of how many hits it takes. I don't know what attack does more damage to it. I just end up sliding and ground pounding and then sliding to raise this web up so you can jump up to this corridor up here. So we fall down to a music note, and now we exit to the most fun part of the run, which is the second river section. So this water is not a one-hit kill. You can just jump straight in it and just keep jumping. It's pretty funny. So you're supposed to ride the log all the way to the right. It's a really long auto scroll to collect a note. We're not doing that. I guess the developers expected this to be a one-hit kill to fall in the water, but they forgot, so you don't die. So we get this speed boost, and then we backtrack a little bit to go all the way with these crazy speed water jumps to get this note that's up here. And then this jump getting up to the top log where this note is kind of tough. You can fall down pretty easily, but with the speed it makes it easier. And then we're going to wait just for a split second for the speed item to respawn so that we can get it again and make our way down here instead of waiting to ride a log. It saves a ton of time to do this, and I'm pretty sure the developers of this game expected you to ride the log and have a one-hit kill if you fell in this water, but they totally forgot. And also, you get to keep this speed. So once you cross over here, this giant, massive hillbilly, it's what they call him, giant, massive hillbilly, will chase you. But because I get to keep the speed item, I get a huge head start on him and cut off a lot of ground here. There is a way where if you jump into this little chase scene at the right angle, the hillbilly won't spawn because the camera won't change. The camera will, you'll still be in a, I guess, third-person view with the camera behind Elwood, and you can just running straight forward, which makes this makes platform a little easier because you can see where you're going. And the hillbilly doesn't spawn. I think he generates a little bit of lag at the start when he spawns. And also when the camera rotates to start this scene, you don't have to deal with that rotating camera. I didn't get it this run. It feels kind of random. Or too precise. I haven't figured it out exactly how to make that jump work yet. So after this is the next scariest part of the run, because this waterfall section, you can fall from one platform to the next, but if you fall too far, it'll count as a death. And it doesn't really matter sometimes it doesn't really matter how far you fall and related to the platforms. It's more of where the camera is. So if the camera hasn't scrolled yet, if you're too far from the camera, I should say, is when it counts as a death, not depending on the platform. So if you fall too far and the camera hasn't caught up, then you'll count as a death. So that's why I fall, and I wait for the camera to catch up, so that when I fall again, the camera is closer to where Elwood is. Because if you just try to jump all the way down, there's a certain threshold where you're too close to the camera, or too far, and then it'll count as a death. So it looked pretty trivial here, but it's really scary. Because any minor movement and the camera will be too far from you, and it'll just count as a death. And then when it resets, you have to wait for this whole cycle at the beginning of this platform with your with the boots that make you jump higher. You lose like a minute if you fall. So that's why I collected that karaoke machine, because I was very happy that I didn't die there. This was the first run that I had where I didn't have a big death anywhere. Now it's just running up this spiral platform, which again looks like it's taken from Banjo-Kazooie. And then we're going to skip talking to this woman a little bit by going kind of behind her into the loading zone. She's supposed to like check all your items.
That was weird.
We get kind of stuck. And now this is I guess the final boss of the game. It's just a dancing mini game. This is Battle of the Bands. I get it. They call it Battle of the Bands. I don't see any other bands here, but this is the one where you actually have to win. You see the hearts at the top. You have to win 5 rounds. You're competing against this other dude. It's really easy. All you do is you hit the arrows on cue. I missed one there, but you hit the arrows on cue. Doesn't matter when you hit the arrows. You can hit them at any point, as long as they're all green by the time you hit the A button when the bar lights up blue. So it's really not a rhythm game. It's just tap all the buttons and then wait till the thing turns blue and then hit it. So up and then wait. And then like the 4th pulse when the thing is blue is when you hit it. If it's blue, B, if it's green, same thing. Just jamming out. So you have to win 5 rounds against this guy, and then you have won Battle of the Bands, and performed for the Queen or something. Actually, I think I take it back. I don't think you need all 5 hearts. I think you just need 3. Maybe it's like best out of 5 or something. Yeah, I think it's best out of 5. And then time stops. There. When the screen goes totally black, because then it just sparks this cutscene. You get to watch the queen saying, "Yay, you may play for her, yay!" So that is Blues Brothers 2000 for the N64. The first couple runs I did of this game were well over an hour. I found lots of skips, so in World 2 I skipped all those long sewer sections. Got very lucky in the haunted house in this run. Casually, this game is terrible. They make you collect things for no reason. It's really weird on trying to figure out where you're supposed to go. The jumping is kind of wonky. It's not consistent on how many hits enemies take or what you can jump on, what you can't jump on. But in a speedrun purpose, it's actually really interesting. There's lots of things you can do, like with the ground pound tech to skip certain platforms. It's just very interesting run. There's lots of speed tech that I have found that make it fun for me to run this game. I know if anyone plays it casually, they wouldn't like it. Oh, we're not going to watch that. But yeah, that's Blues Brothers 2000, and hope to show it off someday.